A buddy of mine, Mark, went through one of those experiences that leave a permanent mark on you, but in the end, it became a story that still makes everyone in our group shake our heads in admiration. It's the kind of story that makes you think about patience, quiet planning, and the sweet taste of calm revenge. Mark had been living with his girlfriend, Lisa, for almost 2 years. When they first moved in together, things seemed good. They had met at a friend's birthday party, hit it off instantly, and after dating for a little over a year, decided to get a place together. It wasn't fancy, just a modest 2-bedroom apartment in a mid-sized city, but it was theirs. For a while, life moved along in that warm rhythm couples fall into. They cooked dinners together, binge-watched shows, argued about what brand of coffee to buy, and even adopted a stray cat they named Oliver. But relationships don't always stay on track. Somewhere along the way, cracks started to show. Mark was working longer hours at his job, Lisa was restless, and instead of addressing the problems directly, they both kind of coasted. They loved each other, or at least thought they did, but the connection wasn't as strong as it once was. By the time this story really begins, they were already in what you might call the danger zone. Mark could feel something was wrong. The intimacy had dried up, the conversations grew shorter, and Lisa seemed distracted. He wasn't sure if it was work stress, dissatisfaction with their life together, or something else. But he didn't want to be paranoid. He trusted her, or at least he wanted to. One weekend, Lisa told him she was going to visit her family who lived about 600 kilometers away. It wasn't unusual, she had made that trip before, and Mark didn't think much of it. She packed a suitcase, kissed him on the cheek, and said she'd be gone for a week. But fate, or maybe just rotten luck for Lisa, had other plans. That Saturday, Mark decided to meet a friend downtown for lunch. The weather was warm, the streets were busy, and the restaurant patios were full of people enjoying the day. He was just walking past one of those patios when he froze. There, sitting at a table with a drink in hand, was Lisa. She wasn't with her family. She wasn't 600 kilometers away. She was laughing, tossing her hair, and leaning across the table toward her ex-boyfriend, Tom. The scene burned into Mark's mind. For a moment, he couldn't move. He just stood there, watching her smile, watching the way she reached out to touch Tom's arm like she used to do with him. His stomach twisted, his pulse raced, and a wave of cold anger rushed through him. But Mark wasn't the kind of guy to cause a public scene. He pulled out his phone, steadied his shaking hands, and took several photos. Proof. Hard, undeniable proof. Then he turned around, walked away, and went straight home. That was the moment when the gears in his head started turning. Most people would have confronted her immediately. Some would have exploded in rage, shouted, thrown things, or ended it right then and there. But not Mark. Instead, he went quiet. He thought about what he wanted, not just the end of the relationship, but justice. Something that would make Lisa realize what she had thrown away. Something that would sting. And so, the plan began. Mark checked his lease. He was on a month-to-month agreement that required 60 days' notice. Lisa wasn't on the lease at all. That detail gave him all the leverage he needed. He called his landlord, a reasonable older guy named Mr. Carson, and explained the situation in careful, calm words. Mr. Carson was sympathetic, and when Mark said he'd be moving out, they worked out a deal. Mark gave his notice, started looking for a new apartment, and quietly arranged everything while Lisa went about her daily routine, oblivious. In the weeks that followed, Mark played his role perfectly. He stayed distant but not cold. He suggested couples therapy once or twice but never pushed it, making it look like he still cared but was simply exhausted. He didn't initiate intimacy, and when Lisa came home late and casually mentioned she was staying over with friends, he just nodded and said, "Okay." Inside, of course, he was burning. He knew where she was, and he knew who she was with. But outwardly, he kept his composure. That cool demeanor was part of the plan. If she thought he was suspicious or preparing to leave, she might change her behavior. But she didn't. She carried on with her little charade, believing she had him fooled. Meanwhile, Mark secured his new place. It was smaller, but cozy, and he felt good about starting fresh. Mr. Carson kept quiet about the move and scheduled new tenant visits only when Lisa wasn't around. By the time moving day came, everything was lined up perfectly. That morning, while Lisa was still asleep, a hired moving crew showed up. They started boxing up his belongings quickly and efficiently. The noise woke her, and she stumbled into the living room in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice groggy but quickly sharpening with alarm as she saw strangers packing up the furniture. Mark didn't answer right away. He walked over to the coffee table, picked up a manila envelope, and slid it toward her. She frowned, opened it, and froze. Inside were the photos, her and Tom on the patio, laughing, leaning close, drinks in hand. Her face drained of color. Mark finally spoke, his voice calm and steady. "I thought you were with your family." Lisa's mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked from the photos to him, panic flashing in her eyes. Before she could stammer out an excuse, Mr. Carson appeared at the door. He looked her square in the face and said, "You have until midnight to get your things out. New tenants are moving in 2 days, and I need to clean up the place before then. If you don't, anything left behind goes on the curb." It was like the ground had Dr.